Today we're going to be creating our ostriches and talking about texture. We're going to start by drawing it on a piece of paper like you can see here, and I will provide that to you with the eyes. But before we get started, let's talk about the different types of texture. So, using a scrap piece of paper, let's look at how you're going to use your markers to create these different types of texture. You could use crayon, colored pencil, or even a marker. Each of them will create their own different look. It'll be thicker or it could be thinner. It's up to you. So when you're looking at these, what you want to create is you're going to press down hard and then lift your hand off the paper as quick as you can. So you push down hard and then you just kind of lift it as you go, and it creates these nice lines and wisps. So that's something I want you to try is try creating some thicker ones and thin. So continue to keep trying. As you can see, you could do darker areas where you can make it thicker, you can make it thinner. Try doing the different directions. Have some lines going straight up. Have some of your lines going towards the right or towards the left. That's just using a colored pencil. Using a crayon, it does similar or the same thing. So I'm just doing those lines where it's really hard on one, and you can go thicker or thinner. And this is just practice at this moment. You could also use on your marker, um, you might have two different types, depends on what you have. Do you have a chisel tip marker where you could do thick and thin, or do you have one that's a round tip? So you could use either, which is fine, or here's a thicker bit of a round one too. So with the round, you use the tip and you can make a thin line, or you can put it on its side and make it thick. So as you're doing it, you could start off thick and then it gets thin. So there's a few different ways, make lines longer, practice making them go long to short to very tiny to bold like you can see there and really big. I just want you to practice the different directions because that's what we're going to need to do when we're creating our birds today. To give us a little more guidance, here is a little video of my dog, Jet, while he was helping me make this video in my basement. So, when you're looking at a pet or an animal, their fur, think of how their fur moves. How do you pet a dog or a cat? Looking at his fur on his nose, I always pet him back like this. On his side, I pet the hair down so it doesn't go in his eyes. That's just some ideas to help you when you are going in and drawing your fur on your ostrich today or the feathers. So you're going to have this piece of paper that has the eyes and the mouth already drawn out for you. This is going to be our practice piece of art before we use our scratch art today. So you can either use whatever materials you have closest to you. It could be markers, it could be colored pencils, and it could even be crayons. What we're going to do is start off for this part here. We're going to start off with doing some of the lines more near the eyes and the beak. So as you can see me drawing with my finger, thinking about my dog, you're doing the fur going straight up between the eyes, and then the closer it gets to the eyes, you're going to curve. And always follow the curve of, the face and how you think it would work and come out. And then we'll focus on the neck of our bird. So here I'm just grabbing some of my colors and give you a moment to get caught up with yours. And I'm going to be using markers for mine. So to begin, let's do our lines, how we were practicing on our paper. We're going to be doing the lines where we're going to have them kind of curve. I always start from the bottom and work my way up. So do these tinier lines and work your way of adding in that texture. Once you started it with one of the colors, now what we're going to do is go in and add in layers. So think about an animal's fur, think about your own hair on your head. You don't have one strand for each part on your head. You have tons of hair. And in order to get that look or that illusion that there's a lot of fur or a lot of hair, you need to add on some layers. So here I'm playing with colors. You don't have to copy the same colors as me. You could just create on your own. But you can see I'm going through and I'm still following that curve. So I'm having the fur closest to the right eye kind of go up and curve around the right eye, the curve on the left, and in the middle, I'm just having my lines going up. And I'm having those lines being shorter between the eyes and right above the nose and longer as it goes up. So practice, play. You cannot do this wrong. You could have some really big ones and thin ones, but just keep growing that feathers on this ostrich. Have them really long, some thicker lines if you like seeing that too, and having some thin ones as well. The goal is it doesn't look like you're coloring it in. It looks like you're just having lots and lots of lines that your eye will then look and fill it in itself. So keep adding in lots of different colors and it'll create these different textures for you. Once you finish the top part of the head and you colored in the beak that you wanted, you could outline and make the eyelashes darker or the eyes. Now we're going to focus on underneath the beak. So thinking about those hairs should be, or feathers should be facing down and curving downwards, not up. So it's going to look like you're drawing a beard or long, crazy hairs coming off of your ostrich hair. But what you want to do is have different lengths. So go, some smaller ones, some bigger, long lines, and you're kind of bringing it up towards the face. So as you can see, that's kind of what I was working on and building here. It's just making some of those feathers. And then I'm going to focus on building out that neck. So I'm going to add in a couple of the blues and purples to tie in with the top head part of my ostrich. And just adding in, again, some more layers. And it just brings the ostrich a little bit more to life. So you could do quick little zigzaggies or some small little tiny wisps as you want. And you can see how the head now looks complete. So let's focus on the neck part now. We're going to make it all go straight down. If you want it to kind of come out to the side a little bit, you can have little tiny thin feathers. But right now what you're going to do is just do a thicker line. So with your marker or your crayon or your color pencil, just have those lines really close together and make it a lot thicker because now it's going to be the body part. And we're going to do it in sections. So choose your colors as you go. And the goal is to not make it look like one solid color. You still want to see the lines, but you can have a lot of them a little bit closer together. So make sure some white is showing through. You can also put color on top of color. So you can see I keep switching between light and dark colors, and this allows me to be able to draw on top of the lighter color. So the blue is actually going to be darker than this purple, and you can see some of the blue going on top of that purple. And what I'm also working on is the lines are going to be smaller and shorter closer to the head, but the body gets big, right? So we're going to make the lines on the neck even bigger. I'm also, if you feel like, "Ooh, I like this color, I want to add it into my bird," go ahead. That's what, it's never, nothing's ever complete and done. It's up to you. If you want to go in and add, you'll notice artists always go back and just add in a few little hints and things here and there, and it just makes it all kind of blend together. So here I'm going to take another color and I'm going to make that next section even bigger. So it's going to be nice and thick. I start off with a thinner group and then I make it longer and longer. And then I'll add in more until my bottom part of my page is complete. Now that we finished our practice round with the colors and using the texture lines and the markers or our crayons, here I'm going to be giving you a scratch art paper and one of the scratch art sticks. So you can see we're going to use the black side, and you can always create your own by using a lot of crayons on a piece of paper, and then you paint over it with some black paint, and you let it dry for a while, and then you scratch off the black paint, which is really fun. So what we're going to do first is we're going to start with the eyes, and we're going to work a little bit backwards of what we did with our other one. This way we can really focus on our bird and create the same look, but a little bit different. So instead of, coloring in and everything, you're just going to be taking away pieces. So gently scratching, or you can scratch a little harder, I want you to first start off with doing a curve. Figure out where you want your eye to be. Don't worry if it's too high or too low, it's still going to come out great. And then do another curve to make your ostrich eye. You can also do eyes any style you want. So here I'm doing the inside of the eye. And you'll notice we're using rainbow paper. So the colors are already in here for you. You can add on the eyelashes however way you would like. I'm just adding in a little bit here. You'll also notice as you're creating it, some of the black pieces are going to be coming off. So you can always blow them off or take it off of the stick. And when you're placing the eye, think about the placement. On our piece of paper, the eyes were further apart. So if you have yours a little closer, that's fine too. Or if they're really far apart, that's fine as well as too. So here I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to repeat the inside of the eye. And then I'm going to repeat the eyelashes. Because I had them curving towards the left on the right eye, I'm going to have them curving towards the right side as well. A couple going up and then the others going downwards. Next, we're going to work on the mouth. So do a nice long, wide rainbow curve. And then do a tiny U curve on each side. Then you're going to curve that a little bit further past the eye and around, so it looks like a backward C. So elongate it and then curve it. And then I always do a mark at the bottom. So I'm going to do a little curve here. And then what you're going to do is take from the top up there and curve it around until you connect. So you see how that kind of came together? You might need to, stretch it out in order for it to connect. And if it doesn't right away, that's fine too. The last part inside the mouth is we're going to do the nostrils. So here you can draw them and then, scratch off the black, like coloring it in that way. They're just ovals that are on the side. And then I'll draw the line, like the mouth, inside it. It'd be really fun to see what colors are coming out on your paper as you're going through with this. So now that we have that basic part, and you'll see I'm constantly clearing off my desk area. You don't have to worry about yours as much, but I know for me, it's something that I like to keep clean. So we're going to start different this time. Let's start with the bottom half. So I want you to do some tinier scratches with your tool here, right underneath the nose. And you'll notice I do one row, and then I'm going to do more of those scratch marks again, making a second row. I want you to keep practicing that. You can elongate some of your lines, but remember we want to add in those textures and not just have one giant line. We want to show it and make it look like there's lots and lots of layers of fur. So keep creating the rest of the neck by just scratching away lines. As you can see, I went really small to medium and then I'm getting larger, just like we practiced on our paper. So here I can bring it all the way down and scratch off all of that to the edge here. And you can also go back in and add some thicker, darker lines if you really wanted to. And in order to give a little bit more character, I'm going to add in some wisps, those little bits of hair that kind of just stick out. And that'll help it look a little bit more like feathers and fur. And I'm going to go in and just do some darker scratches in some areas so that it looks like thicker patches of fur. Okay, so now let's continue working our way up. I'm going to follow the curve of the mouth. So you can see I'm doing those same scratch marks, have them really tiny the closer they are. So usually you think about the wrinkles and lines closer to eyes on people are really small, but on larger parts like the forehead and other parts of the face, you'll notice that they are always bigger. So keep that in mind when you're creating the face. So here I am, I have the tinier lines, and now I'm going in and adding in some longer lines coming off of it and having some that are going in the different little bit of directions to give it some character. So do that on both sides of the face. As you continue, reference what you did, which means look back at your other drawing that you did. Remember, we did those tinier lines. They followed on the top of the beak. They followed the line of the beak as well as the eyes. So you're having them almost sideways as you're creating it. And some lines going straight up and some lines just following sideways. Like, think about how would you wipe away Sandman underneath your eyes? Or how would you wipe your face if you had something under your eyes? So if you get stuck, think about on yourself, what would you do? If you have an itch on your nose, is it up and down? If you have an itch, somewhere under your eye, or is it sideways? think about all of that as you're creating this and just use what you did on your other art piece and have fun. Go in and add thinner lines and thicker lines and build it. You could even have the hair in a shape where maybe it's bundled and you add in a bow. Maybe it's got some other fun little creativeness on the top up here. So I'm going to leave this part for you to fill in. You could follow along by watching me or change it up to how you're going to create it. But remember having those smaller to medium to longer lines to create that look.